Welcome, my friends, to the Buried Tome. My name is John Aiden, and this is part two of my search for truth. In my first part of this little series, I detailed a bit of my childhood leading into my decision to be baptized as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And at the end of that video, I explained that there would be an interview coming that would follow the events of the first video. Now, I was baptized in the January of 2017. The interview that I gave at this circuit assembly happened in October of that same year, and the interview details the events surrounding the time period leading up into my baptism. And I have a video recording of it. Enjoy.
Next, we'll talk to Brother Olivetis. In earlier discussions, you beautifully expressed to me how you and your brothers are being raised in a wonderful and loving, but religiously divided household. So, how did this prove to be a significant challenge to your loyalty?
Growing up, my parents each wanted us kids to attend the religious services of their respective faiths. In time, I grew to love the faith that Jehovah drew me toward.
So, how did you let your parents know how you felt?
I came to a point where I could no longer be pulled in two different directions. So I decided to have a respectful discussion with my dad, telling him that I love him and in no way was I trying to undermine his authority, but my desire was to serve Jehovah undividedly. So I could no longer attend the religious services that did not promote what I found to be true.
Okay, so I can imagine only being 17, that must have been, taking some courage on your part. So, how did that discussion go?
I know that the Holy Spirit was guiding my decision because He did not hold me back from serving Jehovah. As a result, I was baptized this past January.
Excellent. Well, that's wonderful. It turns out very well for you. So let me ask you this last question. What Bible example has helped you to remain loyal, and how so?
Reflecting on the example of Jonathan helped me to act on my faith and assured me that I was making the right decision. Jonathan acknowledged Jehovah's approval of David, all the while maintaining his love and obedience to his father. Like Jonathan, I love my father and know that he's proud of who I've become.
Well, excellent. Thank you both for your fine example.
If it sounds like I'm slurring in my interview there, I had braces at the time. I regret that interview. In fact, I regretted it a few short years after giving it, as I started to wake up little by little, and I did not know what was happening to me. But I did know that I had I had done a serious injustice to my father by detailing that interview. Because for whose sake did I give that interview? Who did it really help? I asked myself that question as the years passed. Was it worth it? Was it worth it? Nobody remembered it. And anyone that did remembered it because they were close family friends of mine and knew exactly the events leading up to my baptism. They knew what I went through to get baptized. But the rest of that audience of 2,000 plus witnesses, they didn't need to hear that. So, for whose sake did I give it? What made that interview all the more painful to recollect in the years past was that there was a certain special guest, an invitee present at that particular day. when I gave that interview. My own father was sitting in the front row, listening to me as I gave that awful interview. I truly had no idea what I was doing at that time. I was so I was so proud of the things that I had done, the the praise that I would receive for the stance that I took. It didn't make me haughty in the sense of having an inflated sense of self. It just made me confident, overly confident, to the point where I could suppress any potential emotional upset that would have been a natural response to vilifying my own parent in front of 2,000 people. But I had no such emotional response. In fact, my life as one of Jehovah's Witnesses has done irreparable damage to my inner being, having to shut down emotionally as that was the only emotional response that I found easiest. And it was growing up in this religiously divided household where I had to view my father as this enemy within, simply because that's what I was told was the right thing to do, the right perspective to have. And what else was I to do as a young boy, 17 years old? After this interview, directly after this interview, that day, my father, after the some time after the interview, he didn't get up immediately, but he did get up, and he went out, and I had no regard for him. Thankfully, there was a sister that was a family friend, and she was very, very gentle with my father. And he said that he remembered that day not just because of the interview, but because of what she did for him. And that simply was, she acknowledged him. And he mentioned that this particular sister called her the afternoon when we got home, and just empathized with him in her own way. And that was what stuck with my father. The only positive thing about that day. I had no idea the pain that I was putting him through because I only saw my own, and I thought it was necessary. But if I knew then what I know now, I can't imagine how differently my life would have been. But at the same time, I don't know that I regret having come this far, all of the things that I did along the way to get to this point. Perhaps it was because of my life as a Jehovah's Witness that I finally feel like I'm awake, that I'm receptive and humbled to receive actual truth. And I like that feeling. But it did not leave my family scarless. My religion has successfully broken my family. Not It didn't completely sever my family bonds because my parents are still married. But as far as my relationships with my believing family members, they have never been more strained. And I've never really had disagreements with my family members at all. I've never had a major disagreement. If it were slight, it was quickly resolved. And so I don't know what the future for my family will be. And of course, I haven't yet detailed how I came to this spiritual awakening, aside from the fact that I grew to regret, severely regret, having this interview with my father in the audience, regardless of the fact that he was in the audience. And only recently was I finally able to apologize to him, despite having felt remorse for so long. And my father's a graceful man, very patient, very kind, and he never held it against me. And so I don't hold against my family that are still believing witnesses for their actions against me, or non action, perhaps, their miscommunication, or lack of communication, I should say. All of it, my father has been enduring silently, sometimes with a slight word of wait a minute, but for the most part, what can you do when the majority of your immediate family, the family that you built, that you put together, is no longer on your side? That there should be sides is in itself a cause for alarm. That should have it should have never gotten to this point. But the organization has such a way of dividing families and making it all seem okay to the ones that enforce the division. And so I don't hold it against my family that may shun me either outrightly or have just kept their distance. And I'd rather, perhaps, they keep their distance altogether and shun me than to only slightly acknowledge me, but have no semblance of the relationship that we had just weeks ago. But this is not the end of my story. This interview was just a shining mark against against my better judgment that I will not forget. But it did help me to see things a bit more justly as regards everyone involved. And it was a stepping stone that led to my awakening. And what that path continued to look like, I will elaborate in my part 3. Thank you for listening. Until next time.